All right, let's jump right in. Today, we are tackling an absolute giant of Western literature, the Roman poet Ovid's epic, the Metamorphoses. It is this sprawling, brilliant, and honestly often shocking masterpiece. And its central theme? It's right there in the title: transformation, change.
And Ovid doesn't waste a single second. Right there in the opening lines, he basically gives us his mission statement. He's telling us exactly what this whole epic is going to be about. This isn't just a collection of stories. It's a song about the very nature of change itself.
And what a universe he builds. See, the Metamorphoses isn't some random grab bag of myths. Ovid, the absolute genius that he is, weaves them all into one single, continuous history of the world. It starts with creation out of pure chaos and goes all the way up to his own, pretty chaotic, political time. And the one rule, the one law that governs this entire universe is change.
I mean, the scale here is just staggering. We're talking 15 books, hundreds of individual stories. It's really easy to get lost in it all. So think of this as your guide. We're going to explore 3 really iconic stories that I think perfectly show the different ways transformation works in Ovid's world.
So first up, let's look at one of the most common triggers for change in Ovid. What happens when the worlds of gods and mortals collide? Our first case study is the absolutely tragic story of Callisto, a nymph whose entire life is just shattered by the casual, terrifying cruelty of a god.
It all kicks off with this incredibly simple yet horrifying act of power. Jupiter, the king of the gods, sees Callisto. She's a beautiful nymph, a loyal follower of the virgin goddess Diana. And for a god like Jupiter, to see is to want. And that one divine whim is about to change a mortal's life forever.
After Jupiter's assault, his wife, the goddess Juno, finds out about it. And here, Ovid shows us this really twisted logic of power. You'd think Juno's rage would be aimed at her all-powerful husband, right? Nope. It's directed entirely at his helpless victim, Callisto.
Juno's revenge is just unbelievably cruel. She doesn't just hurt Callisto, she fundamentally changes who she is. She rips away her human form and, this is the worst part, she robs her of her ability to speak, to plead her case, or even just to explain what happened to her.
And this is where Ovid just twists the knife. He highlights the absolute psychological horror of this moment. Think about it. This isn't some fairy tale, poof, you're an animal kind of thing. Callisto's human mind, with all her memories, her personality, her fears, it's all still there, but it's trapped inside the body of a bear.
Her life just becomes this waking nightmare. She's now hunted in the very woods she once called home. The tragedy hits its peak when her own son, who's now a hunter, comes face to face with her and almost kills her. To stop this final, awful act, Jupiter steps in and places them both in the sky as constellations. It's like her tragedy is just frozen up there in the stars, a permanent, silent monument to her suffering.
So, Callisto's story shows metamorphosis as a brutal punishment from the gods. But what if transformation is actually a desperate way to escape from them? That brings us to our next story, the famous tragic chase of Daphne and Apollo.
The whole story is just this one frantic pursuit. Apollo, the sun god, gets hit by one of Cupid's arrows and becomes completely obsessed with the nymph Daphne. But she wants nothing to do with him. She flees, terrified. Just as he's about to catch her, she screams out a prayer to her father, a river god, begging him to destroy the body that has cursed her. And he answers. Her feet grow roots, bark covers her skin, her hair turns into leaves, she becomes a laurel tree.
And here, Ovid gives us this brilliant, tragic irony. Apollo can't have her as a woman, so he claims her as a tree. He makes the laurel his sacred symbol. So get this, while Daphne technically escapes his grasp, she ends up being tied to his identity forever. Her transformation is a kind of salvation, sure, but it's also a form of eternal possession.
Okay, so for our final case study, let's look at another powerful engine of change: good old-fashioned human pride. The ancient Greeks had a great word for it: hubris. That dangerous kind of arrogance that makes mortals think they can challenge the gods. This is the story of Arachne, a weaver whose legendary skill was also her doom.
So Arachne is a weaver of just unbelievable talent. And she knows it, a little too well maybe. She gets so proud that she starts boasting that her skill is even better than that of Pallas Athena, the goddess of wisdom and weaving herself. Well, that is a huge insult, and Athena comes down to earth, disguised as an old woman, to accept the challenge.
What happens next is basically a battle of art. Athena weaves this incredible tapestry showing the glory of the gods. It's a very clear warning. But Arachne, in this incredible act of defiance, weaves an equally beautiful, equally perfect tapestry depicting all the crimes of the gods, all their deceptions. Her art isn't just skillful, it's a full-blown political protest. It's a takedown.
And this is what sets Athena off. She's enraged, not because the work is bad, but because it's flawless, and its message is absolutely damning. So she just destroys it, rips it to shreds. The despairing Arachne tries to hang herself, and Athena, in a moment of cruel pity, transforms her into a spider. It's a kind of poetic justice, right? Her skill is preserved, but now she's doomed to spin and weave for all eternity.
Okay, so we've walked through these three incredible and frankly pretty intense stories: divine cruelty, desperate escape, mortal pride. What does it all tell us? What's the big cosmic rule that Ovid is revealing to us about his universe?
Well, when you lay them all out like this, a really clear pattern starts to emerge. Change in the Metamorphoses is never, ever random. It's always driven by these incredibly powerful forces: divine lust, overwhelming grief, defiant pride. Every single transformation is the direct result of some intense, world-altering passion.
So, metamorphosis is basically the fundamental law of physics in Ovid's world. It's the natural consequence of living in a universe where the passions of gods and humans are so strong they have the power to literally reshape reality. It is the one law that no one can escape.
And that really brings us to the heart of what Ovid is saying. In the world he creates for us, nothing is stable. Nothing is permanent. People become animals. They become stars. They become trees. Landscapes get reformed. The only thing you can actually count on is that everything eventually will change into something else.
And Ovid doesn't just leave us to figure this out. Near the very end of his epic, he spells it out for us through the voice of the philosopher Pythagoras. He writes that the entire universe is like a river, constantly flowing, constantly changing. What was is no more, and what is will soon be something different.
Which, leaves us with a pretty deep question. 2,000 years after Ovid wrote this masterpiece, if his epic is arguing that the only real truth in the universe is constant change, it really makes you wonder, in our own lives, in our world today, is there anything at all that's truly permanent?